felter for about 10 years, and I fell in love with it from the very first time I did it. I bought a little ornament at a craft show that was, I believe, needle felted, and I loved the way it looked and felt. It was just beautiful. And from then on I became very interested in felting. So I started gathering books together, and there weren't very many books at that time on felting, and I looked through the resources in the back of the books, and I called up all the companies that were listed there, and I ordered supplies from them and made my first attempt at felting, and I've been in love with it ever since then. It's just an amazing process, and the possibilities are endless. That's what I love about it. There's so many different things that you can make with it, and the process itself is very simple. You don't need a lot of supplies, and you'll be in love with it when you try it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over all the supplies that you need, and there aren't many. A whisk, which you probably have in your kitchen right now. This is the soap that I use, and it's a little mixture that I make up, and the way I make it is I take a bar of pure olive oil soap, I grate it up with a kitchen grater, put it in a container like this or a yogurt container, and then I pour boiling water over it to fill it up. I cover it and I leave it for 24 hours, and then it becomes this great jelly soap that I use for felting. I like using olive oil soap because it doesn't dry out your hands and it doesn't lather up too much, so it's just perfect for felting. So I have the soap, the whisk, the scissors. These are little pre-felted pieces that if you're going to put a design on your project, whatever you're working on, you might want to do these first, and I'm going to show you quickly how to make a pre-felt sample. What I used to felt on is this big table, and then I have a non-skid liner, shelf liner actually. It's a non-skid mat, and then this is the shelf liner with ridges. It's just called a ridged shelf liner, and you can get that at any home store. And this works just great because it has a nice little texture to it. You do need something that has texture to it. And then I have a bucket and hot water, and then I have this tool that I bought at a felting supply store, which works great. And what it is it's like a little watering shower head, and it's just perfect for distributing the water over the wool. And lastly, I have all this beautiful wool roving. Let me see, what color do I love? This one, purple. I love purple. And this is the roving. This is the wool that you want to use. It comes in all different types of wool. What I generally use is merino because it felts up really, really fast, and it comes in so many beautiful colors, and it's nice and soft, but particularly because it felts so fast. And to prove that, I'm going to do a very quick sample right now, just to show you how to lay out the wool and just very quickly show you the process of felting a pre-felt or a regular felt. So the difference between a pre-felt and a regular felt is just how long you felt it for. So these have only been felted for just 1 minute to hold the wool together so that it can then be further felted. This is and I'm going to show you how to do that. If you felt it longer, it reaches a stage where it won't really felt anymore. So this is how you lay out the fibers. I hold it just like this, and it's just like cotton candy. That's what it reminds me of. And I'm laying out a layer that is thin. I can see through it, but what you really want to watch out for is any kind of holes in it. Like I can see it's really thin in a couple of spots, so I'm just going to put a very thin extra layer over that. And so I'm going to just do a quick square felt. So you layer it in one direction and then you do it in the other direction. And depending on what you're making and how thick you want it, you know, you can do somewhere between 2 layers and 4 layers, alternating the direction of the layers. So I'm just going to do these 2 layers, and for the demonstration I'm doing today for the felted booties, I use 2 layers for that. So I'm going to felt this right now so you can see how fast it is. It's like magic. It's unbelievable. In fact, I think what I'll do is I think I will even just cut a piece of this and just put that on there so you can see it felting right into there. So what I'm doing is I'm wetting my wool with a hot water. So there's hot water here, and I mixed in a little bit of my soap mixture. You need the soap in the water because the water will just bead off of the wool if you don't have the soap in there. So I've got it wet, and all I'm doing is I'm basically giving it a massage. That's what I'm doing. I'm just rubbing it back and forth, and it's already shrinking and felting. I can see it already. It's already gotten smaller. In fact, I'm pretty sure I can pick it up already. And it's a piece of wool. Now this is where I would stop for pre-felt, but if I was making something, you know, finished, I would continue felting it. And I just want to show you quickly the process. So it does shrink up quite a bit. I usually allow about, you know, I consider that merino will shrink up to half the size. So I like to felt it real tightly. So you probably have to make it twice the size. Whatever you're making, you should make about twice the size, or at least a third larger. So here it is. And then usually at the end, once I felted it a little bit, I do this, and this is something that helps to really felt it really, really fast. And it's going to shrink down. When I open this up, it's probably going to be about half the size. So here it is. It's a tiny little felt square. So I'm going to just quickly explain how to make a pattern if you want to make boots. I want to make 2 boots. So the way I started was I drew my foot right on here, which you can see right here. I marked the middle of the foot right there. And then I drew a line from the middle. This is the middle of the 2 boots. So I drew that line from the middle up to however long you want your boot. So because I know the merino shrinks a lot, I made it extra long. Plus, because I'm tall, I wanted it to be longer than it might be for somebody who's shorter than me. So what I did is I drew that line, and then I drew a line also from the bottom of my foot up to the middle line, whatever height you want that. So this is about, just so you know the measurement, I wear a size 12 women's shoe. So this right here, you know, is a size 12, and then this right here is about 12 inches. So that's how high I made mine. You could make it 9 inches or whatever height you want. If you wanted to make a shoe, you'd make it real short, you know, just like 3 inches. So once I drew that out, those lines, which you can see right there, what I did is I extended it about 2 inches all the way around. And this is just a piece of muslin. I like using muslin. A lot of other felters use plastic. I'm not comfortable with plastic because it's really slippery. I like that the wool sticks to the muslin. It kind of helps to keep it in place, and that's what I like using. So this is how you make the pattern. Once I draw this part out and extend it 2 inches, then what I do is I take my piece of muslin, I fold it in half, so you can see my drawing is on this side. I fold it in half, and then I just cut it so that it's double, and it opens up like this to be a pattern. So that's the pattern you use if you want to make the boots. So I took my pattern and I layered my wool. I chose to use these colors. I wanted it to change from the dark burgundy to the pink at the tip. And so I've partially layered it, and I'm going to finish layering it so you can see how I'm doing it. So I'm layering it just like I showed in the beginning when I layered that small felting sample. I'm doing it first in this direction, and then I'm going to finish going in this direction. I'm only using 2 layers for this. You could use more than that, but I'm just using 2. I don't feel I need to use more than that. And what I'm also doing is I am extending beyond, about 2 inches beyond the pattern. So your wool has to come out about 2 inches beyond the pattern. And you don't have to worry about doing it perfectly. It all kind of melds together in the end. The only thing you want to be careful about is holes. You just want to make sure that you have as even a covering as you can, and that will ensure that it will come out really, really nice. So I finished this side completely, and I'm going to just finish this so you can see how I'm doing it. And I have 3 colors that I'm using. I'm using the burgundy, and I'm using a ruby color, and this pink. So I already did the burgundy in this direction. I'm going to just continue that on. And so I hold it, you know, maybe 5 inches below the end, and I'm just labeling it, and I just sort of pat it down as I'm layering it. And you know, part of the fun of it is you don't know exactly how it's going to look when you finish, especially if you're using all different, you know, different colors, or if you're adding designs, but it always looks beautiful. That's the one thing I can tell you, is it just always looks so beautiful in the end. So here's my burgundy in one direction, and I'm going to do a little bit of the ruby, and then I'm going to do the end in pink, and there. I love this pink. So I'm just keeping an eye on the holes, want to make sure I don't have any. And then I'm going to do my final layer going in the opposite direction. What I'm doing here is, this is going to be my curly little toe. So I'm just extending it beyond that for the curly part of the toe. And that's why that's extended that far. So now I'm doing the other direction, layering it in the other direction. And just trying to keep an eye on the gaps, if there's any gaps. Remembering to extend it 2 inches beyond. It's okay if it's not exactly 2 inches, you know, you'll just anywhere between 1 inch and 2 inches, even 3 inches. Mine always extends further than 2 inches. This is called seamless felting. So what we're going to make is, we're actually going to make something that has no seams, but it's a wearable. So now I'm doing my last layer here. of the burgundy, just so you get an idea of how I do it. I think everybody has their own way of working. There isn't really a right or a wrong way. But it does, I think, help to see how different people do it. So this is how I do it. I'm almost done. And after I finish layering this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to felt it a little bit without the water first. And what that does is it actually starts the fibers connecting. And so this is how I do it. My pattern's underneath, and I'm just agitating it without any water on it or anything. And it'll help this is called a bat. It'll help this stick together. Now, we're going to need 2 bats like this. So this is 1 bat, and once you've done this, see, it sticks together pretty easily, and you can move it easily, just like that. So you need a second bat exactly or similar to that. And what that's going to do is it's going to go over the top of this, which will be in the next section. Alright, so here's my bat. I flipped it over so you can see my pattern. And we have to leave the pattern in there because that's what keeps the wool that's going to go over this from felting to itself. So first thing I do is I take my soap mixture, and I used to measure how much soap I put in there, but don't tell anyone, I don't measure anymore. So I just this bucket is 2/3 full, and I'm just putting about this much soap in there. And then I use the whisk. That works really well to dissolve the soap in there. So that was probably about 1/4 cup, I would say, that I put in there. So I get it all dissolved, and I'm going to use my little tool. And what I'm going to do is wet all inside of the pattern. I don't want to get the edges wet yet. I just want to wet inside of here. So this tool is great. I used to use a little cup, and it just was a big mess. Well, this is a mess too, but it's much less of a mess. So what you want to really make sure is happening is that the wool is getting wet really underneath there. And I'm just pressing down. And you can definitely feel when the wool is wet, because it kind of stays puffy until it's all wet. Once it's really wet, it gets real flat. So what I'm doing is I'm just wetting all inside of the pattern, right underneath the pattern, and the water goes just right through this, which is through the muslin, through the pattern. After I finish wetting that, I'm going to fold these edges in, and then I'm going to put my other bat over that. So I'm just making sure this is all wet all underneath. Almost there. Alright. And now I'm going to fold these edges over. I'm folding them over but not folding in the pattern. And on the corner here, I just tease that out a little bit, and this will be my little curly Q toe. So I want to leave that pointed. And here's the little corner here, and my toe. And it's okay, my toes are never exactly the same, but in the end, they come out great anyway. So, folding all this over. I find too, if you really take your time doing the preliminary parts of the felting, your piece comes out so much better. Just, you know, being careful when you're layering makes a big difference. So I'm wetting down my edges that I just folded in, and now I'm going to put my other bat directly over this, but before I do that, I'm actually going to felt it a little bit just to hold it together. And because the merino wool starts felting immediately, I know it's already sticking together. So I'm just going to do both sides of this, very, very little. And I'm going to get my other bat. So that's good. So here it is, my second bat. It's huge and surprisingly fairly easy to handle. I'm lining it up with the middle there, and position this over here like this, and oops, position that over this like that. And believe it or not, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to flip it over. So keep your fingers crossed. Here we go. Flip it over. And I'm going to do the same exact thing on this side. I'm going to wet inside. And of course, a lot of that water has already seeped through and wet the bat underneath anyway. But not thoroughly. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. So I'm going to get the center wet underneath the pattern, and I'm going to fold those edges in. It's an amazing process. It always amazes me that this works, because you know, all I'm doing is putting hot water on here and agitating this, and I'm going to end up with a pair of slippers that I can wear. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm actually felting this a little bit, and then I'm folding these edges over. And just like I did on the other one. Just like this. There. And I'm going to wet those edges again. So you can see this is much more than 2 inches, this overlap, but that's okay. And there, wetting down. Now this is my little curly Q toe right here. Wetting all this down. I always have towels around the table, underneath the table, to catch the water when the water comes down. Surprisingly, none of the water has dripped off the table yet, but it will probably. So what I'm doing right now is I'm shaping the toe, and I want it to be a curl. So this is one boot, and this is the other boot right here. And once it's all wet, you start agitating it like this. And I do like, I like to kind of try to, flip that over. And just agitate it. You just keep doing that for quite a while. Probably about 20 minutes, I would say. You want to get the edges, work on the toes, and the whole, you know, basically all around the edges especially. All right, so I've been felting this carefully, and it has shrunken up a little bit, and you can see I worked on the toes a little bit, and the way I shape the toes is I basically shape it almost the way I would a piece of clay. You remember it was kind of just loose fibers, and what I had started doing is I curl it and then I just rub it on the mat like this. I just keep rubbing the toes on the mat. And the other thing I do is I actually will curl it up like this, and then in between my hands I just roll it like this, and it really shapes up surprisingly quickly. So see, here's my little curly Q. And then I just sort of, what makes it stiffen up is just the agitation and the hot water. So the more I rub it, the stiffer that gets and the more it holds its shape. And I did work on these a little bit, quite, you know, I'm trying to think how long, maybe to shape the toes, I probably work on those maybe 15 minutes total, something like that. And I just do it just like this, just rubbing it, and then I put it under really hot water because the heat really shrinks it up real fast. So these are pretty good, these toes. This one's actually better than this one, so I'm gonna just do a little bit more on this one, like this. And the moment we have all been waiting for, I'm going to cut these in half to make 2 boots. And remember, my pattern's inside, so I have to take the pattern out. And what I'm going to do is I usually cut a little on this side and a little on this side because I do want to reuse my pattern. If you don't want to reuse it, you can just cut straight across, but if you do, this is what you would do, is I'm opening it up and I can see my pattern is right here. It's the white right there. And so I'm just running my finger along the inside because the wool does sticks to the muslin, to the pattern. And so you have to unstick it first. So here I'm cutting that in half, and I'm just opening this up and taking my pattern out. Isn't that something? Here, so see how it sticks to the wool? So it's out of, even this side looks pretty. Even the inside of the boot is pretty. So there's one, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Open it up. And these are not fully felted. These are felted partially. And there. Take that out. And then I'm going to take my boot and finish cutting it in half. There. Just like this. And I love this uneven edge actually after it gets felted. So now what I do is I actually just roll it around like this quite a bit, and I start shaping it. I always do this. You want to check where our fold was and make sure that there isn't a little flap there. And what you do, how you do that is you just open it up like this. And there's usually a flap, but I'm not sure why there isn't one here. So that looks good, and I'll check this one just along the fold, because sometimes it felts together and there's a little flap, and you just tease it open. So that looks good, that all looks good. I'm going to squeeze that out and just roll it around. And you can also run it under hot water, which will really help too. And so do this. And you can really feel it felting up so fast. It gets stiffer and stiffer and stiffer. And down here, I usually flatten out the bottom and then I rub it like this. Sometimes also to work on this, on the toe, I roll that up and then I actually turn this inside out with that in there and work on it like this, which helps. So the inside of the boot is nicely felted too. And you keep doing this for, you know, it will keep shrinking. And what I would normally do is I would go over to the sink and fill my bucket up with hot water and sort of roll those around in the hot water to get it really, really heated up, because the heat and the agitation are the things that stick it together, that make it shrink up and stick together. So I can feel this really nicely stiffening up. These are adorable. As always, they come out so cute. So you just continue on with this. I don't know, if I had to guess, I'd say maybe 20 minutes or so. But, you know, it depends on how hard you're agitating it, and different factors affect it. My little toe here. And so keep on working on that, and then there is one last step that I will show you. Alright, so here's the last phase. I felted my bootie, and believe it or not, I'm going to put it on my foot to finish felting it. So that's what you do. You put it right on, and because we want it to be the shape of your foot, and you put some hot water on there and you just continue doing that. You rub it up against your foot until it shrinks up. And I alternate taking it off and putting it back on. Oh, it looks so cute already. It just gives you an idea of the shape of your foot, and I also, you know, step on it, see how it looks. So it's a little floppy still. It could use a little bit of work. It depends on how you want it to fit, and you just kind of put some soap on it. Actually, you can put some soap in your hands and roll it around like this, and that'll really help to shape it. And then I usually will do this for, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, 10 minutes, whatever. Then take it off. I would run it under hot water, and just roll it around like this under hot water, put it on again, and then finish shaping it. It does felt up pretty quickly. And the great thing about this is, you know, you can wear it like that, or you can fold this down if you want. You would also use the same process to make a baby bootie, but obviously it would have to be tiny. So you would measure the baby's foot and then enlarge it, you know, just like we made the other pattern, and felt it, cut it in half, same exact thing. So this is pretty much the finishing part of it. Looks adorable, doesn't it? Yeah, so that's it, and here they are. Aren't they beautiful? Well, these aren't the same ones I was working on. This is a different pair that I made, but I just love these. You can wear them around the house, and for slippers, they make a great gift. Or if you're like me and you are a craftsperson who makes their living selling their work, you would put them in a store and sell them to somebody. So I do have 2 Etsy shops. The first one is a shop where I sell my finished work, if you want to look at any of that. And the name of that shop is addictedtomermaids.etsy.com. The second one is a supply shop where I sell ceramic beads and buttons that I make, and the name of that shop is mermaidsbeads.etsy.com. And if you want to see other felted projects that I've worked on my blog, I have a lot of beautiful projects on there. My blog is addictedtomermaids.blogspot.com. Thanks!